you're not embarrassed. You're scared to be seen as a beginner. You're scared to be seen trying something. Let's get into my top 10 excuses about podcasting. Hey you guys, I'm Denanyoh. Sorry, I was just thinking about my funniest excuse someone gave me for podcasting. I've been a podcast host for 5 years. I now have 2 shows. I'm a podcast manager. I launch podcasts for other people. I love podcasting. I will tell everybody and their mama and their cousin to start a podcast because I think it's one of the easiest mediums to get into. Occasionally, people come to me and they have these silliest excuses for not launching a podcast. So let's get into my top 10. They don't have a cool studio. What does a studio have to do with you sharing a story? What does the studio have to do with you sitting down and sharing your opinion? Well, I mean, look at your video, Kyla. You got your lighting, you got your bookshelf, you got your this, you got your branded shirt. I've been doing this for 5 years. If you just started a TV show, just got into dancing, are you gonna be as good as someone who's been doing it for 5 years? Like, your studio is extra. It absolutely is not necessary. In fact, when I start with podcast clients, unless I am coming on to an existing show, if I'm launching a podcast, I tell them to start audio only. You can always record the video and release it later. But for you to share your story, you don't even need to think about what you look like. You don't even need to think about what the room looks like with the guest. You need to focus on sharing the story, focus on listening and asking questions if it's an interview show, focus on getting your point across if it's a solo recording. There's enough stuff for you to think about. The podcast studio is by far the weakest excuse to not start a podcast. The other reason, and these two tie in, that they have to have a video channel. You can have a video portion of a podcast. You cannot have a video podcast. Podcasts are based on AirPods. That's how they were titled, right? It was audio that you were listening to on an AirPod. Cast on a podcast. And just like a radio cast. Video is always good. If you have guests, you can record with guests. If you're recording by yourself, you can do that as well. And you can still focus on the audio and releasing that, and you can save the video for whenever you're ready. You don't have to release them at the same time. As you grow, as you want to scale your podcast, yes, you can release the video. But again, there are enough hurdles to just getting started with your podcasting. You absolutely do not need to start with the video. So another excuse for why people don't get into podcasting is they don't have guests, or that they feel like they need guests. It depends. I'm a classically trained lawyer. I gotta give you the lawyer answer. It depends. If you are an expert in a field and you want to share your expertise, absolutely great, do it. If you think it's more engaging to have some back and forth with somebody, do that as well, right? But there's a thing called a guest bias, where you think that people are only listening to your show because of the guest that you have on. Yeah, the guest could be a big name, but guess what else? They are listening for you. What questions are you asking? What's the follow-up? Are you engaging with the episode? How could you even get this kind of a guest on here, right? You don't become small potatoes just because you have XYZ big name guests on the show. That's why it's the guest bias. People think that, oh no, they're listening because of them. And it's like, yeah, but you've created this entire audience because of you. At the end of the day, it's you and it's your show, okay? So thinking that you have to have guests is not correct with having a podcast. On the You Are a Lawyer podcast, I have about 240 something episodes, and the majority of them have guests. I'm saying I probably have like 4 episodes on there that are solo episodes, just me. But the solo episodes do just as good because people are like, what's Kyla doing? What's she up to? I want to hear from her. Because you are the consistent thread through every episode, and people want to know, what would you say about this? What questions would you ask? Oh, I knew Kyla would do that, right? They get to know you as much as they get to see you interact with each guest that comes on the show. It's one of the better excuses, but it still is a bias, right? It's not necessarily a good one for you not to start your podcast. So another excuse to not start a podcast is not having podcast related decor. I have shirts that have You Are a Lawyer on them. I love to wear them. That's the name of my podcast. I used to have another podcast and we don't do any of that. So you do not need specific decor, specific things just to start your podcast. Oh, but on Call Her Daddy, she has the microphone wrap and it has the name on there. No. Why can't you let yourself be a beginner? Do not despise small beginnings. It is okay to say, this is where I'm starting and this is what I love. You don't need all of this stuff. You don't need your logo and a hologram on the wall. You don't need any of this stuff to actually get started. You need to have something to say, an RSS host, and the boldness to publish it, all right? I launch and manage podcasts for people. So another weak excuse that I hear a lot from people who are like, I can't do a podcast is I don't have a cover art. This is where you lean on the other person's expertise. If you've never done it before, you need to just lean on the person who has, right? So let's say you come to me and you say, hey, I want to have a podcast talking about entertainment news. Do you know what I'm going to do after you pay me and we sign a contract and are in agreement? I'm going to do my research. I'm going to say, this is a show, this is a show, this is a show. If you have co-hosts, it's going to look like this, Bam, here's some examples. What would you like your show to look like? If you wanted to use these as examples, which one would you favorite? Which one do you like? Which one don't you like? And sometimes people will say, hey, I already made my cover art. Boom. When I started the You Are a Lawyer podcast, I had text only on my cover art for the first 2 years. And then once I had established an audience and I honestly became more bold, then I put my face on the cover and I was like, ta-da, here I am. And so now for the last 3 years, I've had my face on my cover art. But I don't believe that my face draws listens or repels listens, right? But I just would not use the lack of cover art as a reason not to start, because what you think might look great and amazing might not fit in with what you want to talk about. It might not fit in with the brand or the niche. And I would even take this one a step further, because another excuse I hear a lot is that people don't know what to call it. Oh, I have something to say, I don't know what to call it. These are small. This is literally like putting on perfume after you've already gotten dressed, gotten ready, done your makeup, and your coat on. Oh, I forgot the perfume. And it's not trivial. It is not trivial. But it's also not foundational. There's a couple of exercises that I give my clients. Try to say the name of your podcast. Oh, I think it should be Streaming and Screaming. Try to say it in your intro. Welcome to Screaming and Yeah, that's not the name. Having the name is not a deal breaker when it comes to the podcast, because it could change. And there's a lot of podcasts that start out, and then when they get acquired or whatever, once they get big enough, they actually change the name of the entire show. One of the really big ones is that don't want to have social media page. There are a lot of podcasts that have social media pages. They share clips of the episodes. They share little spoilers or little teasers for what's coming. You do not have to do that, right? Sometimes you will see a clip of a podcast and be like, oh my gosh, I have to go listen to that. Yes. Sometimes you will see it and you will just keep scrolling. You could care less. That social media piece is a really weak excuse for not starting a podcast, because the two do not have to go hand in hand. I've had shows with absolutely no social media that blow up. I've had shows with really generic social media that do really well. For you as a beginner, someone who is like, I just want to do this, I just want to prove to myself I can do it, having social media should not be a reason that you do not start a podcast. Let people come to you like, oh, tell me more. Oh, I'm intrigued. I have a video about that. It's a thing that I call secret podcast, where you start a podcast, you share it, and you let the algorithms find your audience, and you don't even tell people who are around you. Because the truth is, if everyone around you is not your ideal client, it doesn't really matter. So go on and start the secret podcast. Feeling like you are not X enough, good enough, attractive enough, smart enough, whatever, to start a podcast is a legitimate concern. That also plays into maybe you don't need a podcast yet, okay? When I work with clients, I always tell them to make a list of 10 to 15 topics they want to discuss. These are not overall niches like, oh, home ownership. I'm talking like HVAC system versus mini split. I'm talking latex paint versus oil-based paint, right? You need to have big topics that you want to discuss and that you can freely discuss. When I do have clients who come to me and they're like, I really want to do it, but I'm not this enough. There's a few things that we can do coaching wise to get them ready. Working with me, there is like a mentorship aspect, and I give you a ton of homework. And so we can pull out a lot of that, but also this ties into number 3, which is a lot of times people just don't feel confident enough to start a podcast. And to that I say, this is why podcasting is amazing. Because anyone can start, and the entry is very, very small. I'm talking, you can really start a podcast for $7 or $25. In terms of the actual money is small. The entry level in terms of time is pretty big if you can't pay for an editor and manager and all those things. The entry level in terms of your mindset, huge. But the reason why I say that there are excuses not to start, because working with a podcast strategist, you can work out some of that not feeling good enough to do it. And you can feel like, okay, yeah, the urge that I have, the nudge that I have to create, yeah, we can work through that. Yeah, okay, let's do it. The impact is greater than my fear. You're not going to feel confident as a podcaster, literally, until you have repetitions of being a podcaster. That is what boosts your confidence. It is getting on here, it's making the mistakes and correcting them that boost your confidence. It's turning on the camera and sitting down and saying, I can talk, you gotta do it. The only way through it is to do it, which is so corny, but it's true. We're getting into my top 2 excuses. I don't wanna be embarrassed, or I don't want someone to know. If you come to me and you tell me you want to start a podcast, you're thinking that you have something to say and you either want me to talk you out of it or you want me to say, absolutely, yeah, this is how we can do it. People have definitely paid me to help them and then not done any of the work because they're like, okay, never mind. My fear of whoever's seeing it, whatever, is too great. And this is why it's an excuse. You're not embarrassed. You're scared to be seen as a beginner. You're scared to be seen trying something, but that's okay. You're embarrassed to be a beginner. If you've been building houses for 20 years, now you're ready to start a podcast. You've already got a history, an established history of doing this, and now you're going to start over as this baby podcaster. Ouch. But why not? If you have the experience and you can teach someone and you can be impactful, who cares that now you're the beginner? You care, and that is perfectly valid, right? The boldness to actually publish the stuff that you've created is by far the hardest part. I still feel it. I just tell myself it's excitement. Your body doesn't know if it's excitement or fear. And I'm just like, ooh, you feel all that excitement for us to go? Ooh, you feel it? You're probably a prime candidate for a secret podcast where get me to share my expertise. It's going to boost my business. I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I know. And I don't have to tell all my friends at the next cocktail party or Christmas party or birthday party, oh, I've been working on this podcast. Let it be for the audience who needs to hear it. Let it be for the people who need to hear it. You've been waiting. This is the #1 top excuse that I hear for why you cannot start a podcast. And people are like, oh, I hate my voice. I just don't want to hear it. I go to conferences and people are like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I hate my voice. I can never. This is why this is the #1 excuse. Your podcast episode is for another person. You not liking your voice is the biggest excuse. And unfortunately, it stops a lot of people from launching podcasts. And I think it is absolutely silly because your podcast episode is not for you. There are very few times when you're going to just go back and listen to your podcast. Now, once you're podcasting 5 years, in love with yourself, in love with your voice, I listen to myself all the time. I think I'm hilarious. I will have fun when I'm recording. I will be laughing while I'm editing. I'll be laughing when I listen back to it. But I also have time and I've accepted myself and I'm like, this is your voice. And so it's the top excuse because it stops so many people from sharing their story and making an impact. And it is the absolute weakest one. Okay, so let's say you hate your voice. Let's go hire an editor. And then you can send them clips or podcasts and be like, hey, I want my podcast to sound like this. You don't have to listen to it again, okay? You know the information. You shared it. What do you need to listen to it again for? And I'm not trying to make fun of it, but it's like, wouldn't the impact of someone else hearing it be bigger than the fact that you don't like your voice, but yet you have all this knowledge and experience in your head where you could benefit someone? The smallest excuse because you're also you, so you can't hear your voice the way somebody else is going to hear it. So put out what you need to say and let it be impactful to that person. If you enjoyed this video, I know you will absolutely love this next one. It's part of my Why You Should Have a Podcast in 2026 series. All right, so I'll see you in the next one.